Well, it's the second of two. So the end two was just that it was the second work that I had done based on a wampum belt that was called the TwoRow wampum belt. And wampum are tiny cylindrical beads carved out of clamshells, so they're either white or purple. And they're woven into belts that carry meaning, that carry a metaphor through usually a simple graphic. It's either a purple figure on a white ground, or a white figure on a purple ground. And there are symbols to the color, you know, white being purity and things like that, and purple being a little darker, and that's that. But you know, that particular belt is historic and relates to our experience when Europeans started moving into our territory on the Mohawk River. And we made an agreement where we said, you're in your sailing ship, we're in our canoe, your customs and beliefs are in your ship, ours are in ours. Let's not get in each other's way. Let's chart parallel, equitable courses on this river forever. So that's the basis of it. I was looking at the way the river is both linking and dividing the two communities. The community of Six Nations Reserve, the Iroquois people, the Haudenosaunee people, and their non-native neighbors across the way. So the river, which traditionally facilitated sociability and culture in our traditions, has been acting like a fence, like a boundary between the two groups. So I was interested in exploring that, and I did not only in the video. So what I did was I got out on a dinner cruise boat that plies up and down that part, and I shot both banks, both river banks. So I had one stream of video that I converted into one of the two purple rows that were on the wampum belt. And the other was the non-native side. The top one is the non-native side. And I shot it from a moving boat, so you have this moving panorama of the river, and it's in quite broad. I shot it with 4 different cameras. It's a 4-channel work, so it's a quite broad panorama. It's an extreme format of panorama. And I like the panorama as well. I feel like it's a sort of a mashup between two very different cultural traditions. One, you know, a native one of wampum belts and their significance, and the other, and their coloration and so forth. And then the other being panoramas, which were you know, associated with tourism, and at one time there were moving panoramas. Artists would paint miles and miles of canvas, and they would unspool it for audiences, and it would be the banks of a river. And the idea was you were a sort of a virtual form of travel, almost an early form of film or National Geographic sort of special. So I was merging those two traditions in this one work. I created this audio track that was recorded from the dinner cruise boat. So you hear people eating, and you hear river sounds. And also the tour guide, the captain of the boat, had a constant narrative, amplified narrative during the cruise. And he's giving his, or this more or less official sort of Canadian version of, you know, the river and Six Nations Reserve and the history of the local history there, including the history of settlement, of European or English settlement there. And I recorded elders at our reserve whom I asked this simple question: if you'd like to just talk to me about the river, about the Grand River. So those two soundtracks, his narrative is juxtaposed with theirs, and they're very different, and they're going at the same time, and sometimes they're talking at cross purposes. So there's a bit of dissonance going on, and a sort of polyphony, a sort of multiple voice thing going on. I think panoramas allow the opportunity for multiple points of view. You can't really line up one vanishing point if you take in such a wide thing. So it implies multi-perspectival consideration. And I was trying to do the same thing with the soundtrack, you know.